Hello, everybody. I think you can all hear me. Right, perfect. Welcome to this KNX webinar hosted by KNX India. My name is Christian. I am currently welcoming you all to join this webinar. Today, we're going to learn about KNX Secure and how KNX has become not only the most secure technology for smart homes and smart buildings, but we're also looking at setting the bar for security for smart homes and smart buildings, as KNX Data Secure and KNX IP Secure are not just something that we invented ourselves, but also something that has been approved as standards by the European Committee, and we're also striving for more. Right, so but without me explaining too much about what is going to happen, I would like to already to Mr. Bhavesh Doshi, sitting in India on behalf of KNX India, delivering this webinar about KNX Secure. And question to Bhavesh. Bhavesh, are you ready?
Yes, Christian, very much ready and very much excited. So, okay, so thank you, Christian. So, hello, friends, and welcome to this webinar on KNX Secure. First of all, I would like to thank KNX Association and especially Christian Stan for giving me and KNX India an opportunity to present this important topic of KNX security on the KNX system. I would also like to thank all of you here who have participated today for attending this webinar, and I'm sure you wouldn't be disappointed because I'll definitely give some good information on security and how easy it is to implement KNX security or to create a secure system in KNX. So we start with about a little bit of housekeeping. So this webinar is classroom style, so all participants are muted. In case if you're not muted, I would request all of them to mute yourself, so there's no disturbance for anybody else or us. Questions and feedback will of course be taken by in the end of the session. We'll take up questions and answers. This webinar is recorded, and this recording would be shared to everybody who has registered for this webinar, and it will be available for download. So what is the agenda? So I have actually the whole session is broken down into 2 or 3 different sections. So first section is what we're talking about why do we need security, right? And that is one of the very important topics and one of the important subject which everybody talks about. But yes, everybody realizes security is needed in the present scenario of home and building automation. Then we'll just go through real hacking scenarios where we'll take 1 or 2 examples. To be precise, 3 examples I'll be showing where the systems were hacked, the KNX system was hacked, and there were some claims made by the hackers. So we'll just go through that and try to understand. Then I will touch upon KNX Secure checklist, which probably all installers or commissioning agencies should follow a simple basic hygiene rules about making the system more secure. Then I will of course introduce what KNX Secure is all about in general, and then we'll talk about some of the secure use cases where in applications how KNX Secure is used and how it can be implemented in different projects. So before we start, a little bit of myself, because we're going to spend 45 minutes together. So I am Bhavesh Doshi. I am a KNX tutor, a founder of Entelechy Systems. We're into design, supply, and integration company, and my mission is by 2025 to help 100,000 people and businesses to adopt smart technologies, which will make their spaces secure, comfortable, healthy, and sustainable with best possible ROI. And I hope I I would need a lot of help from all of you to achieve my mission. So let's start. So whose responsibility it is? When anything happens or we hear a lot of news about different systems being hacked, about projects being hacked. So whose responsibility it is? So of course you would have seen many articles or many case studies being published, or there's so many on the forums also. Then we have seen that smart homes are being hacked very easily these days. Uh, so it could be a problem of a system, or so we don't know really. So we're just trying to find out what problems are there as of now, and what is something which we need to look at and try to make it more secure. So you'll see so many uh, cases coming up every day. Uh, how hackers are able to access the systems, right? So the question is, yes, again, whose responsibility it is? So is it the responsibility of only the system, or is it the responsibility of the installer, or is it also the responsibility of the users? So this is what we need to ascertain. So the last uh, image which I showed you, where most of us would be aware about it, is about a hotel in Shenzhen, St. Regis. This was the first large KNX project which was hacked, and it was like it went viral all over the world. Uh, so this is something which we will also look at as a case study, that how it was done, how it was hacked, and what could have been done to actually secure it. So security is a very big topic, uh, and these days, and all of us know and experience the need uh, and requirement of security in automation systems. Okay? So when the argument of security is for systems like KNX, which has a global install base, customers and users expect very high standard of security. So let us look at some of the aspects and factors which would make us understand the need and solutions of security in automation systems. So do we need KNX Secure? Uh, why do we need KNX Secure for? So uh, of course, technology, it offers hacking opportunities. Now this everybody knows that technologies are open, and they are sorry, technologies offer hacking opportunities, and in home and building controls, now we've seen the advent of IoT and connected devices and smart lighting, and the need of connecting to internet, cloud-based solutions, edge solutions. So there's huge demand from smart home solution side, and more functions are being demanded by users and being provided by solution providers in the residential and both commercial segment as well. So yes, hacking, there is an opportunity for hackers here. So we need to consider this as one of the reasons, yes. So safety requirements of KNX installation uh, is also growing. So information on, so uh, users want to protect their data, their consumption data, maybe their electricity uh, meter reading, or maybe battery, the amount of battery which is, or the solar power battery reading. So this kind of data, people don't want to, they want to protect this kind of data. Then of course, protection of locking system. So I will see one of the cases where hackers were able to operate locking systems in a huge commercial buildings. So yes, the protection of various systems, door contacts, alarms, critical functions. Uh, security applications, alarms. So all these kind of requirements have created a need for secure systems. So protecting devices of KNX installation will be an increasing challenge for everybody. So everybody who's into planning or who's into installers or who are manufacturers. So protecting these devices, protecting installations will always be a challenge. It is a growing challenge. Uh, One being an open systems, two because there are so many manufacturers already supplying KNX systems worldwide, globally. There are more than 75,000 partners worldwide who are installing systems globally. So KNX as a system, as installers, as planners, as manufacturers, we are also responsible to see to it that we create a system which is not easily hackable and it is secure and it gives a peace of mind to the clients and the customers and the users. So yes, it is our responsibility if you look at it. So if you look at all those incidents and events which you come across about hacking of automation systems, so we also think about how it can be prevented. So if it was one-off case, then it is okay. People don't take it very seriously. But now, when more and more cases are coming up, uh, people are getting aware about it. So as developers, we need to look into it. So as KNX, as an association, also took this up as a challenge and tried to find out what is the problem behind all these systems getting hacked, and if there is any requirement, if there are any changes in the system, it should be made on the system level. And in case if there is a problem on the installation side, installers and uh, installers had to be educated about the same. So uh, let us see. I mean, we saw why we need security because there are a lot of requirements. So let us look into a real hacking scenarios which happened on the KNX side, and how can we prevent the access to the network to various KNX physical medium? Just look, we'll go through that. We'll go through uh, limiting unwanted communication. So there's so much of communication happening. So try to see how we can limit those unwanted communication and what were the solutions to real hacking scenarios. So yeah, let us look at some of the real hacking scenarios. So this is about the hotel in Shenzhen, Saint Regis. So we just go to what actually was the scenario in that. So if you look at the situation, this was a hotel room which was a typical GRMS kind of application where you had lighting, air conditioning, shutters, uh, all functions being controlled using KNX devices. Uh, then there was a KNX net IP backbone or a main line uh, communicating the central for a central application. Uh, since it was a very a five-star grade hotel, there were some fancy applications where guests were given a tablet with a Butler app on it. So this app would control all the functions in the room, including some of the central functions also. And of course, guests were also given a Wi-Fi key. So like everybody gets a Wi-Fi password or a Wi-Fi key to access Wi-Fi. So yes, if you look at it, yeah, so from the tablet you could easily control the room. So it was a perfectly normal scenario if you look at it. But what was observed was, so the hacker actually was he observed that okay, the tablet was the only way uh, the application could control all the functions in the room, and so Wi-Fi uh, was was the way, and of course Wi-Fi was protected, but the Wi-Fi key was already given to him, so he could always access. He had access the Wi-Fi also, and so he could control all the applications, everything from Wi-Fi. So what? After getting all this information, the hacker actually changed the room because he wanted to understand or wanted to test if from outside I can control this room or not, because he had access to that room. So from the other room, he actually tried to control the previous room where he was, and he could see that okay, there was a multicast port which was there, so access was not there. But then he realized the port was open, so 3671 was open, and 3671 uh, he realized that okay, it can be used for KNX communications. So he was actually able to break in and control lights of other rooms from a different from the other room. So yeah, so it was a case of a very simple uh, network configuration problem, and because of that, hacker was able to actually access this. If you look at second scenario, this was one of the large commercial buildings where hacker uh, mounted a device. Uh, so it was a special kind of device which hacker had access to, and it got installed in one of the uh, in the network somewhere, and this device gave it gave all the information of Telegram which was passing all the communication information, Telegram information to the hacker via Wi-Fi or mobile data, and there was a possibility also of sending telegrams from remote locations on the network. Yes, the third scenario was this was one of the large homes where hacker got access to the network through an outdoor movement detector, or so he was able to access the movement detector, remove the movement detector, and he connects one of the softwares where he could spy and he could collect data on KNX telegrams uh, on through on Wi-Fi, and so yeah, so he was able to take control of the home. So this was one of the scenarios also which were published in some of those magazines. So in this, what was observed, of course, like I told you, it was an outside movement detector which was easily accessible, and hacker was able to remove it unnoticed, which is also questionable. And yes, all the home communication in the house could be accessed through one single access from outside. So all these scenarios, if you look at it now, so could these scenarios have been prevented? Yes, of course, these scenarios would have been prevented because so one thing we need to realize, because we know now that there are systems which are already hacked, we start thinking about this, otherwise uh, there are some things we don't follow, some basics we don't follow when installation happens or when the network are being created, on the site. So that's something we don't. But yes, if you look at this examples and if you try to learn from these examples, it would be better if you follow some hygiene rules in the installations, and we could definitely uh, prevent this scenarios. So yeah, looking at this hygiene, which is very, I mean, if all installers could follow this, there's no intelligence in this. It is just that we have to take care of few things as a checklist. Where if you look at push buttons, you could always use push buttons with a special screw, so people cannot remove it. So nobody, they would always require a special tool to remove this. So if you look at hotels, typically hotel installation, you go to hotel rooms, you could always access uh, bus by removing the keypads. So you this is something which can be taken care at the time of installation. So you could have a different kind of screw, so accessibility is less. A lot of other anti-theft measures can be implemented. One was, of course, tools, but there are so many other things which can be used also, and it's freely available also in the market. So, if you look at hotels, some hotels use distribution boards in vestibule, which is always open, so anybody can access that. Sometimes it is also housed with electrical circuits. There's no separate installation boxes, so that can also be accessed very easily. And most of the time I have seen they're not locked. So it's a simple question of just locking it. One and only maintenance or authorized person could access it. So this also would, you know, not give easy access to hackers or to anybody who wants to access it. Like in the scenario of home where movement detector was used to hack in the system, uh, you find different varieties of detectors. So if we can mount it at a height maybe around 10 meters or 20 meters, which is not very easy to access, people would have to actually climb or require some kind of equipment to access those sensors. And so it will not be easy for anybody to access the outdoor installations. So this is another thing which need to take care of. So you would always have sensors in standalone houses or villas uh, in the outside, and if you can take care of these or sensors or weather stations or wind sensors or any kind of sensors which is there, so we try to install or in a location where it is not very easy to access. Then of course you have push buttons with BCUs, so it's very easy access if you have push button with BCUs. So wherever required or wherever it is possible, you try to use binary inputs, so we don't get direct access to the bus. Now we've seen more and more hotels they started using binary input access rather than using keypads with the PCU. So at least you you could limit the access to the bus from that side. Okay. Another thing which is also seen and should be taken care of, that after the installation is done, should we should always remove any loose cables or the cables which are not used, unused cables, and should not be visible. So otherwise, this would be the easiest way for anybody to hack into a system. So access to outdoor should be done, of course, inside also, but inside it's still difficult for a person to enter the house and do it. But outside cables should be should not be visible. That is another thing which we have to take care of. So this is physical side of it, on the software side. So when you're planning and when you know there are certain areas which will always be open to public. For example, you have a parking lot in a building where people would always have an access, or a common toilet, or a security cabin. Uh, in the house, maybe landscape, or if you have a building, uh, multi-apartment residential building, you would have many public areas, common areas, which will always be open. So the best way to do is you can extend one extra line, use a line coupler, and use a filter table in the line coupler. So you limit the group addresses from flowing from outside to inside. So this is a very, very good way of, though it might be a bit expensive, but if you're looking at the whole security aspect, it will definitely prevent hackers from accessing the entire installation. They might still be able to access that outside installation, but they will never be able to access the inside because you put a filter table in the couplers, in the line couplers. Same way, power line, of course, it's not used in India, I would say, but because there are many attendants here who, there are many global attendants in this webinar. So yes, there are electronic filters available for power line as well, where you could limit the installation, or you could limit the telegrams to one network itself, and you can filter out uh, incoming and outgoing signals. Yes. So this Ethernet, yes, another uh, bit of, because now everyone uses Ethernet in the network now, because internet access is always required due to some applications which users always want. But yeah, so building automation uh, preferably should always have a dedicated LAN network or an Ethernet network, sorry, or a wireless LAN network. So with its own router switches, so it is not shared with other networks in the house. And in case if it is if customer doesn't allow that, or maybe the budget is a problem, or maybe the site is not that big, there are other ways of also protecting, like, okay, you can create a different VLAN, you can create you can protect using MAC filters of devices, uh, change, or you can hide wireless LAN SSIDs. So these are all network, and this is all hygiene. I mean, this is nothing. Uh, there's nothing, no special engineering required here. It's just normal hygiene procedure, which has to be followed in each and every site. In case if there are large buildings with complex networks, uh, with complex requirements of firewalls and uh, different kind of cybersecurity, uh, my advice would always to appoint some networking specialists and let them do that job. So you don't have to worry about it. And believe me, customers would pay for it, because if you're actually assuring them the security, uh, customers would also pay for that. So if you look at KNX IP, or KNX Net IP, uh, was introduced in 2005-6 probably, and is almost 14-15 years now. So it was not designed to go on to internet. So it was not meant for creating this for the internet applications. But KNX never realized that this will go so big in few years time, and today they're looking at install millions and millions install base, and requirement in each and every site, each and every uh, installations. So yes, this has to be looked. So in KNX, so again, I would say ports, routers. Again, it is about creating networking in a manner. So we'll see that in other slides also. So in case you need to have the system being connected to the internet. So one thing which we would not recommend is using a multicast router with open ports, which will always give access to your network to hackers, because that's the easiest way to enter is through port. So that is something which should be avoided. And in case if that part, because some would argue that the networking part is not always in our scope, we just do the KNX installation. But this is something as a checklist you would always insist and demand from the customers or consultants or architects that this is what is required for us to protect our system. So recommended, of course, you should have a router with a VPN connection, very safe. You could always have that. Or of course, there are various gateways available from different manufacturers, and they have a specific objects or specific way of securing the network. So you could always use that as well, because that is also good as long as it fits into your functionality. So yes, but no open ports. So try to see to it that you don't use open ports. Uh, so this would prevent access to the network. So now let us look at the unwanted communication inside the network, and protecting all configuration and the communication. So now we just talked about all the hygiene side of it, and so this also has to be taken into care that you don't use point to point or broadcast kind of communications. So you have to limit this kind of communication. Of course, there would be scenarios where this is required, but yes, should always limit unwanted communication inside the network. Is another is you have a VCU. Now this is also where so you can define password, or you can use a password protected VCUs by creating a project or a device, and so will prevent configuration, reading of configuration or modifying by unauthorized version. So this I'm sure many of us will be doing, right? So now these are the things, but let us look at some of the countermeasures. If you look at it, we saw the scenario, we saw some of the hygiene practices which should be used to create a secure network. So let us look at the countermeasures. So in the first case, if you look at it, uh, so there was a dedicated network. There was, I mean, used dedicated network for the building automation. Could have been used because they use only one network for uh, all their applications, and network access key was given to everyone. The default system setup. So if you look at the runtime side of it and the IP side of it, the multicast address which was used was a default address, so which could have been avoided, and using of default port 361 should be avoided. So if this would have been taken care of, probably they could have saved this that kind of, and there was nothing else. I mean, that was just a configuration side of it, right? We will of course also see what KNX uh, did to the standards itself, to the system itself, after looking at all this case, because KNX took that responsibility of changing it and upon themselves, and they came out with different solutions. But even if it was not there, this is all something which is very hygiene, and this is something which everybody has to follow, and it doesn't even cost. This is the configuration side. So yeah, this application was supposed to be probably an airport. So here again, the installation, the hacker was allowed or was able to actually put a device in the network above the ceiling, which again is very questionable. But there is an access like this, of course, any system can be hacked, right? But anyway, so it was allowed. So here, maybe they could have used movement detectors or, or with an anti-clamp or anti-theft devices, uh, installation devices basically, or you could have used push buttons with different screws or different wall boxes. Here, it was not very clear where the spying device was actually installed. But again, this could have been there. So again, this is what I already told you. So here, another thing can be look at it is if the facility manager could actually, because it's a large project, so there was visualization software, the facility group monitoring and telegram monitoring and alarm was already there. So they could have set up a system of knowing unwanted telegrams which was passing on the network at that point of time. And all the devices, they could have activated individual address detection also. The device, so anything which suspicious happens or anything which is not defined in the system could also be taken care of, and immediately then some suspicion thing happens, so the facility manager can easily track it. But yes, this was not done, so it was not detected. Uh, Again, same. If you look at, so if so, there are two ways of hacking, right? So one is you have a physical access to the system itself through a twisted pair bus, or generally it is done via a Wi-Fi network. Because, and even if it is done by via a Wi-Fi network, the hacker is near to the building, near to the installation, because again the range is a problem. So most of the time hackers would always be near the buildings. So if you have a monitoring, and here probably you might require help from networking specialists to see to it that all those Wi-Fi networks are monitored and you hide your own SSIDs. There are no pollution as far as Wi-Fi networks are concerned, because if you look at it, go to anybody's house, you open Wi-Fi access and you'll see like hundreds of Wi-Fi networks already discoverable, or you can always see that. So you try to avoid that in the installation, and so your Wi-Fi networks are not spilled outside the houses. So that is also which could be done. And in case people are not aware how to do it, you could always check on the internet. It's very easy, and you just try to block your Wi-Fi network. It should not go outside your house. So here again, here the simple thing is, one is it was accessible from outside, so which was very bad. Should not be there. And so here probably the measure is again, could create a dedicated subnetwork line, or again physically they could have got uh, a different installation, physical installation of the devices, or different kind of, so nobody could have opened and accessed it. And okay, because this was a house, it could have been supervised or not supervised, but yes, some countermeasures could have already been done. But the easiest was accessibility of the KNX bus outside was one of the biggest problems, so that could have been avoided. And most of the, then it would have not happened like this. Uh, in case if there are problems like we had seen, some installation scenarios where access to public will always be there, probably you could limit the telegrams or the group addresses by using filter tables and routing tables, and uh, not allow point-to-point telegrams. So this can be implemented in ETAs while commissioning, while planning the whole project, and those kind of countermeasures can always be taken after doing all the hygiene part of the installation. In configuration, this is also one thing which has to be put in practice now. If, unwanted telegrams or group addresses uh, and filter tables and point-to-point telegrams should not be allowed to pass. So yeah, this is about wireless networks, right? So we were talking about physical network or Ethernet networks, but what about radio frequency? Because this is something which is becoming more and more popular, and so radio frequency is an open medium again. Uh, so physical protection measures cannot be taken or cannot be implemented to prevent access here because it's a completely different way of communication and it requires a different way of handling. So yeah, so if you uh, looking at this, KNX came out with a system which was like KNX Secure, which is a double protection concept which KNX Association developed. After that, so there are two different concepts. One is KNX IP Secure, and one is KNX Data Secure. So let us look at this system. You know, we saw real case scenarios. We saw there are some hygiene methods can be taken, or there are unwanted internal communication methods we saw. But let us look at the systems actually which was developed by KNX Association after looking at all those cases which is happening. So KNX Secure. So KNX Secure is nothing but a new era of security. Now, why do we need new era of security? Is because we have different challenges now, in the sense that we have different requirements from customers that require different functional requirements from the government. So now everybody wants to control their houses from remotely. They want voice control, they want cloud controls. So internet and wireless networks are always present in all the installations now. And it requires an additional protective measures because not everything can be defined in the configuration of KNX till KNX Secure came. So yeah, so this was one of the challenges which is there, which we are facing right now. Then of course the challenge is data security because now looking at the functionality like voice control or that, you know, there's so many data analysis functions and cloud functions, edge cloud. There are different ways of functions, uh, measuring functions. If you look at it, so people want to protect all those informations now, and uh, one is the theft. Second is, of course, they are also looking at not modification of them. So, like it was done in one of those hotels case, of course, and so all those things are not allowed to be manipulated, right? So there are so many different kind of applications now where protection of this data or some of those telegrams have become very very important. So especially if you look at large installations like airports where alarms shouldn't be only manipulated because there are cases where alarms were manipulated, it was not generated, and something wrong happened with it. So this is of course another challenges. Then of course you have different uh, applications, some remote applications or remote configuration of devices uh, is is becoming more and more popular now. And so again, you have to look at it. So and you have over-the-air firmware updates, you have cloud updates from the cloud, you have different applications like smart cities and KNX City. that so many devices will be communicating on the communication layer. So these are different kind of challenges again, and we have to restrict it that only authorized persons could take it. Yes, then we have to ensure that since there will be so many devices installed and they're already installed, we also have to see to it that the communication which is happening on the bus is actually from device to device which they are defined. So uh, if communication from A to B has to happen, then it has to happen between A and B. So those kind of challenges are also being recognized now. So is there, and radio frequency, of course, uh, biggest medium now which everybody is looking at. So yes, there are certain methods where you could always protect this in a different manner, but when it comes to KNX as a system, when as soon as it enters the system on the physical side, yes, we would be able to secure that also. So yes, on the RF side, you have advanced encryption AES, where everybody knows about this. It's a standard encryption algorithm with ISO, which is ISO, of course, 18033-3. 128.8 it consists of substituting bytes. So I don't want to cover encryption and AES here because it's a standard protocol which everybody uses it, and this is used for protection on the runtime. And so I don't want to cover this because it's a different subject altogether, and I'm sure nobody wants to even know about it, at least for today. So coming on the KNX double protection concept. So of course, like I said, which is two concepts. One is KNX IP secure and one is KNX data secure. So let us look at what are these concepts. So KNX data secure ensures the encryption of telegrams within an installation. So we're talking about encrypting telegrams inside the system, inside the installation. So when we say inside the installation, that means the system is not accessed from outside or not accessed from the internet side. Yeah. So it is inside the network. So KNX data secure is the encryption method uh, for the telegrams within an installation. And then, so how does it work? So because you would know, I mean, all of us know the telegram structure of KNX. So you have, of course, different structure which you've seen here. So the KNX data security is encrypted on the useful data side. So if you look at routing counter length, and after that is the useful data, right? And so that useful data, which is actual command like switch dim or whatever command it is for, so that part is encrypted. So it is not. Uh, so even if somebody is trying to access it or trying to read those data, this telegram, it would never uh, get the actual useful data out of the telegram. And in KNX data secure, the rest of the telegram is not encrypted, so it is secured through AES-128, of course, and internally it is not encrypted. And Telegram is extended by MSC, so MAC, and any tampering with the Telegram would create a mismatch with the MAC. So even if somebody tries to hack this and tries to modify the data here, it will still not match because it has to match the MAC side, Mac side of it also. So sorry, maybe I think I have lost the connection.
No, we still hear you, Bhavesh.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen? Because I think there's some.
Yes, we see your
Is
screen.
my. Oh, okay. Fine. Fine. I think there's some problem in my computer. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Krishna. Okay, so this is how the KNX data secure works, which is for the internal telegrams are encrypted internally, and the useful data is is actually encrypted. So yes, so it becomes very difficult to hack this because you would never get the actual information out of this. Then of course you have, like I explained you, this is where you would actually shield it. And KNX IP secure ensures the encryption of Telegram for outside our IP connection. So now you would have the KNX data secure was for internal telegrams, and KNX IP secure is for the telegrams which is on the IP side, especially coming from the external side of it. So it could be internet, or it could be visualization software also, or a third-party system which is communicating on the IP backbone and on an IP communication, and it is coming inside the system. So here the whole KNX net IP frame, the whole telegram is encrypted, unlike KNX data secure where only useful data was encrypted. Here the whole KNX net IP frame, the whole telegram is encrypted, so no one can listen to the content of the telegram, but is when it is transmitted via the IP, of course. And telegram is decrypted by the coupler, KNX IP secure functionality. So there is actually a way, a physical way, and when you actually configuring, uh, you actually define all these things in the ATS. When you actually configuring the KNX IP secure. So of course there are couplers which are with KNX IP secure, which will decrypt. So uh, the telegram which is being encrypted. So if you look at previous slide, yeah, so you would have couplers like this which are secure couplers. So it will be IP secure couplers, and it will decrypt and encrypt the telegrams uh, to and fro basically. So this is how telegrams are secure, and it is KNX IP secure. So the whole telegram is being shaded here. So yes, KNX secure data. I mean, both this concept, they allow creation of secure communication channel between KNX devices, of course. Uh, Infiltration of any manipulated messages or messages coming outside the network uh, are not allowed, or maybe system can be inhibited of this kind of telegrams, so it restricts that kind of telegrams because all these messages will be uh, rejected. Encryption of data traffic makes KNX installation almost invulnerable. So I would not say it is not possible to hack the system, but yes, it is very difficult to hack the KNX system after you implemented KNX secure. And of course, this whole security which has been done is based on worldwide established security protocol. So KNX as a system, whenever they develop something, it will always be a standard-based solution. So let us look at KNX applications and products. So what we saw, why we require security, then there were some cases we went through. There were some measures, countermeasures, some hygiene measures, and of course now uh, all of them. Plus you have secure measures in the system itself now. So you could always have that. So in KNX Secure, so I'll just go through 2-3 examples, practical examples where it has been used already, and you can also use, of course, in all the projects now.
So everybody, I just received a message. Unfortunately, we have to come to like an end due to technical problems here. Nevertheless, I would like to thank you very much, Bhavesh, for like hosting this webinar. I think security is a topic that we definitely need to have a look at and look more into that thing. For now, I think like the information has been provided, I think also in a very good way. We understand now that there are like 2 ways to protect your installation, one's from the inside with KNX Data Secure, and also one's from the outside with KNX IP Secure. I would also like to draw your attention then to the KNX Secure page, which you can reach by accessing our website, knx.org, where you can also find more information about KNX and KNX Secure. Again, like I would like to thank Bhavesh very much for this thing. I would like to also apologize here for, unfortunately, those technical difficulties. Nevertheless, we are definitely looking at more webinars, not only about KNX Secure. Therefore, I would also like to draw your attention to the KNX website again to have a look at our scheduled webinars, as I know we have several exciting webinars coming up together with our KNX members that are going to present some of their devices and solutions, as well as some of the KNX basics that are very important also to know. At that point, I would like to thank you very much again for your attention, and for any kind of questions, you can then direct them to the presenter at a later time. You will, of course, as announced, receive the presentation and the recording of the webinar. Thank you very much, and for any further questions, feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Hello, Christian. Hello.